Chapman from New York City. So today, everybody out there, I got to tell you something. I'm starting to embark on a new adventure. This is going to be the first cut of a series of 4 that are going to be focusing on creative haircutting techniques. Hopefully you all got a chance to get some of the more foundational ideas that or techniques that I was able to share with everybody in the COVID-19 collection tutorial bundle. This one is going to be more about outside the box techniques, disconnections, different types of layerings, and different things that are really going to allow you to expand your artistry, build on your creativity, and actually are going to be super functional, and all of them are going to be things that can be adjusted to be either more editorial or avant-garde or modern looking, or totally salon suitable. So the very first cut that we're going to go on is I'm going to call this tier layering. That's the way I was taught to call it. There may be other versions or names for it, but that's what we're going to be talking about today, is tier layering. Now, I'm giving you all a heads up. I'm not going to just show you a haircut. I'm going to be explaining the techniques behind it, so that you can mold it and make it work for your clientele and the haircuts and the artistry that you want to create. I'm going to be describing a lot of things, and I'm going to be cutting one thing, because I only got one mannequin head, all right? So, if I may, if you are interested, and I really highly suggest it in this instance, is to get a pad and paper and take down some notes, so that you can understand not only what it is that I'm cutting, but also what I'm explaining, because I'll be explaining a lot more so that you can fully understand it and then fully utilize it to help grow your clientele and increase your revenue and allow you to be even more creative with your type of artistry. Cool? Cool. All right, so in tier layering, what it is it's 2 sets of layers. One on the underneath and then one above. It's classified as an invisible disconnection. So now an invisible disconnection is utilized for purpose, not for aesthetic. Okay? So you won't see it, but you'll see what it does. All right? Now that's the important thing about this idea, that's what this is. So this is an amazing technique, although I'm going to be doing a little bit of a different version, but I'll explain along the way. This is an amazing technique for that client that you have who has 4 heads on their hair and still wants a ton of layers. This is a way to do it, actually. For that person who has a ton of hair and wants to remove weight, this is a way to do it. If you want to create a silhouette of shape in long hair, this is a way to do it. There's a million different versions of things that we can do with this. Like I told you, I'm going to cut one. I'm going to explain a lot of different concepts. Please take those notes so that you can look at them later and then utilize them for every single client that you have behind the chair, so that this can serve you no matter what. Okay, so the first thing that I've set up right now, I've cut a long baseline. We can see that. We created a long line. It's a square line, actually. It's even all the way around. And I already have it all subsectioned down. I have the underneath section down, and then I have the top section down. Okay? Okay. Couple of things about this, so we're clear. Get on in here, Una. Let's peep these cats to what I'm talking about. All right. So if we notice, I have the underneath here. We're going to layer this underneath. All right. Now, right now, I'm above the wide of the head, and by the way, this is about when the notes should start. I've decided to section it out above the wide of the head so that I can create more volume through this area of the head. Why does this work? This works because when I have a section, a disconnected section sectioned above the wide of the head, the hair grows out like this above the wide of the head. So when I cut shorter pieces, it will prop up what's above it. All right? On the converse, if I take this section and I go below the wide of the head, the hair grows flat against the head, and that'll actually help collapse shape. All right? So that's note number 1. To take a disconnection above the wide of the head, hair goes like this. It will support it and create a little bit more volume. Below the wide of the head, the hair grows flat to the head, and you will actually collapse volume. Okay? Now, another thing that I've done, if you can see, I have upside down triangle right here, right? Now, a couple of reasons for this. One, right, I'm honoring the hairline, right? So that as I layer, I'm not just layering primarily the middle, I'm equally layering some of the sides. Now, mind you, this is also a technique where in this instance, I'm going to work on pushing the weight forward, all right, which is perfect for a mannequin head because all of you know that the front of a mannequin head has very little density actually, and so do a lot of our clients. So this is going to be something that you can definitely utilize to their benefit and to your own, all right? Now, there's something about this that I want to describe as well. This can go in a couple of different ways. This can actually be a regular triangle. How so? I can decide to take this triangle and make it look more like this. And then this would be the entire disconnected section. And what I can do is I can carve out this underneath to create negative space for the hair above it to fall into, okay? Now this is something also that can work really well if someone has a growth pattern at the nape that grows to the center. I don't necessarily want to layer so much above that because there's not enough strength underneath to support the top. All right? So this is super important. A couple of things can happen with this. You can use this type of a section to create negative space at or in the wide of the head for what's above to sit into to create that type of a shape, all right? Or if the hair growth pattern at the nape is growing to the inside, to do this, it'll create more weight above it with your layering so that you can actually release some weight through your perimeter, but also be able to layer the top without affecting your line or creating any potential holes, okay? Now for the purposes of this, because it's a mannequin head, I'm actually doing what's appropriate for this. Equal density through the whole back, right? But I want to push the weight forward. So I'm going to be doing somewhat of a triangular layering technique in this instance. So that it's more layered in the back, going to less layered in the front. Pushing it forward so that the weight is moving into the area that is less dense. Okay? So the way we'll start this is there. I hope Una can see me. I will first tilt the head down. This is very important so that I can actually utilize the correct techniques. Have your client move their head a little bit for this. It will help you execute them so that you can actually cut this not so loosely but with actual precision. I'm also going to cut this with blunt lines, actually, so that you can see how this actually can be done seamlessly without any type of chipping into or whatever to remove weight lines if we're utilizing the correct elevation and over direction. Let me begin. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to grab 2 more clips so that my sections are super clear for all of you to see. Point 1. Point 2, I'm going to start right in the center. Okay, I have my center part and I'm going to create a triangular section, point at top, wider at the bottom. All right? There we go. I will section this out so that you will be able to see, and then I will take the other side of that. There we go. And I will take this out of the way so you can see. All right, great. Head is forward again, and I've taken a triangular section. Point at the top, wider at the bottom. All right? Then, from this place, and remember, I've already cut my length line in. This is something I would want to do so that I know where I'm going. If you wanted a looser or more shattered shape at the bottom, I suppose you could cut it from the inside out as opposed to baseline and then fill in. However, don't do that on a client who's like, I want the length here, because it may actually not be there due to the type of layering you do and if there'll be a perimeter line with strength or if it's going to be a little bit looser and piecey. All right? So this is what I'm talking about, everybody. I hope I'm not talking too fast. I'm really trying to slow it down so that I can provide not only what I'm cutting, but understanding of the techniques so that you can utilize this in the way that you see fit with each and every single client that you deem appropriate that comes into your chair. Okay? Okay. Now, from here, I stand. I will always position myself to cut from short to long. When I cut from short to long, it's precise. If I cut from long to short, it's very imprecise. So as a right-handed cutter, I'm going to be on the right side of the head for this particular exercise, okay? So that I'm always cutting from short to long. If you're left-handed, obviously, or not so obviously, but let me state it, you will be doing the reverse of what I'm doing if you're going to take my advice about the short to long thing, all right? Now, great. So now I have my section. Now this is that moment. I'm going to get up a little bit closer because I want everybody to see what drops out and how I decide what I'm going to take. Okay? So now look at my left hand and how I pivot it. Okay? Here we are. There we are. I have all the hair. There we go. See? All right? See how I pivoted my fingers? Now watch this. I still have nice lengths, right? And I created a lot of movement here, all right? And now we're off to the races, ladies and gentlemen. Check this out. Now, next section, I'll be doing the left side of the head first, then I'll move to the right side. Now, so we're clear. Because I am going to create a triangular shape on the underneath, everything is actually going to be over-directed to this initial section, so that the short pushes along forward, so that the front feels as though it has more density, and then the densities between back and front will be more equalized. Now, if somebody had a really thick head of hair, you could over-direct to the previous and create something more like that, all right? But always be aware of one thing. Very few clients have I been able to do that to, because we always have to remember that when we're executing this technique, I start at the place that has the most hair real estate, center back. As I move forward, we go over the ears and start losing hair real estate. So frequently, I'll do the back almost always the same, just to varying degrees of layering. This is a lot of layering I'm doing in this, so that you can really see the impact of what this creates, okay? You could do less. This is a very go big or go home, but I'm doing it. Actually, if you were to do a go big or go home, Una, come a little bit closer. A go big or go home looks like a razor. Pretend this comb is a razor. The hair is wet, and I would go like this, from up here. All right? That's maximum weight removal. You create maximum negative space for what's on top to sit into. All right? All right. Now, from this place, I'm going to take a forward diagonal section. Clip this up so everybody can see what I'm doing. Another thing, if you notice, I'm actually cutting this actually dry. I flat ironed it because I find that when it's dry, you can more accurately see what I'm doing. If it was in person and this was a client, I would actually do this wet, then I would dry it. Because this works on curly hair, works on straight hair, works on wavy hair. Like, there ain't no type of hair this doesn't work on. It all depends on what type of shape you want to create. All right? So I'm doing it this, just so we're clear. It's not a rule that it needs to be flat ironed. In a salon setting, and I use it frequently in the salon, I would do this wet and then I would dry it afterwards. Okay? Just so we're clear. I'm doing this so that you're able to see what it is that I'm doing a lot more clearer than when mannequin hair is wet. We all know how transparent those sections can be. Great. All right? So now from here, again, head is still tilted down. This is very important. I will take the hair, and now remember, everything is going to be directed back to that initial section. All right? So I grab the hair. Look how I comb down. Then I angle up. I look to make sure hair dropped out, right? That's my safety. Yep, still got my line. Let me make sure it's all connected in line here. There we go. There we go. See how I'm already starting to create this shape? Look at the silhouette, see? All right, do you see how this will support this? That's where the body is created in this technique, yeah? Next section, forward diagonal. Clip this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Now this is very important. I will comb down and pivot up. It's really important as you comb this that you can always see this parting. If you cut across this parting and then cut, you will whack off the entire front and you will create a mullet. Not mad at a mullet, but if we're gonna do it, let's do it because we intend to do it, not by accident, particularly with a client who's sitting in your chair who may not want said mullet, okay? So there we go. So just again, I'm gonna go down and pivot up. always making sure that I can see this parting. That will ensure that actually I'll have enough of the length that drops out to create my line. Right? See how I can see the parting? You see that combing direction? Let me make sure all that's locked in. And the other thing, if you notice, I always peek over here. It's like, always do a little peekaboo, right? It's like, is stuff dropping out, right? You want to make sure of this, not just because of length or layers or density or what have you. The main thing about that, what if somebody had a patch of alopecia right there? You need to switch it up, right? That means maybe you'll do another disconnected, or maybe you'll section something out so that above it is layered equally. I don't know what, there's a number of different ways you could deal with that. But never just assume that you're gonna have enough to create your length, okay? There can be any number of reasons. Maybe somebody has a scar on the back of their, I don't know why they're losing, why they have maybe a patch that's missing, but always make sure that you're checking for that before you cut, all right? Super, super important. Don't get too carried away now, all right? Now, next section. Remember, forward diagonal. And as we can see, I keep over-directing everything to that initial center section that was right below the occipital. Now remember, I comb down along with this. I comb down first, making sure that that parting is always exposed, getting all that hair in my control, in my grasp, right? And then from here, I pivot up. I take a little peekaboo. There we are. I double check my work to make sure it's on point, because even though this is a looser way of taking my sections, I still want to make sure that the precision is there. When the haircut is cut with precision, I know that it will always work for my client. When I start losing precision, that's when it may or may not work. All right, see? There we go. We still got line, everything is cool, and let's carry on, all right? There we go, there. Next section. Remember, bringing it all down. Now watch, I'm really going to blow your mind because I'm bringing this all the way to the front, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what's going to help me push the hair to where I want it to be. All right, there. Forward diagonal. Forward diagonal. Now watch. Remember my parting of this disconnect? Then I all the way. And then by this time, I have so little to cut. I'll maybe flip to the wide teeth of my comb so I can really get all the hair, right? There's a lot of hair to comb. The fine teeth may have too much tension. There we go. There we go. And then you can see the work. See? The over-directed. All right? There. Now, other side. Well, section this out again. I always want to come from a place of precision, and I want to make sure that everything is very clear, especially when I'm executing a technique that requires so much shifting and such, yeah? Do a forward diagonal. There we go. Now this side is only tricky because we'll always tend to bring hair towards us a lot easier than we'll be able to push it away. All right? So ultimately what winds up happening is that you may find that this side may get shorter because you may not push it far enough away from you. Right? So this is that moment you can use your mirror in the salon because you'll be able to see if you're in the center or whether you're not. So check your mirror, check out what's happening so that you're making sure you're pushing it far enough away from you so that you're actually staying accurate within your technique. Okay? Always remember that with all of your cutting actually. When you're bringing it to you, you'll always bring it into place. When you're pushing it away from you, you have to put a little bit of extra effort in there because you will tend not to push it as aggressively as you will tend to pull it. All right? Cool. Now, next section, or section number 1 of the right back, or the right side, because I'm combining all of them, right? So there, here we are, there we go, and we're off to the races. There we go, checking my length. There we are. Forward diagonal again. Look at my body mechanics. You know, it's kind of funny. One thing that I find super important in doing this type of haircutting tutorial videos is I do show both sides. Why do you show both sides, Yarish? You're doing the same technique from right to left. I am. And guess what? My body mechanics are very different from right to left. Pay attention to that and how I'm operating that, because that's the real key to your success in operating really good technique in your haircutting actually, right? So that's why I don't shut it off and speed it up or whatever, because don't ever speed up your body mechanics. Your body mechanics and your relationship to the head of hair that you're cutting will, by and large, dictate the accuracy of your technique and how quickly, or not quickly, how effectively and efficiently you will be able to operate said technique to get the desired result within the time frame of a haircut appointment. All right? Super, super important. There. And I just keep on along the journey. One thing again, I'm just going to reiterate this point, making sure that this parting is always visible to you. Watch how I comb this to the center. See that? See that parting? Parting is still there. I have not lost my parting. That is something I will not lose, because if I do that, I'll take off too much length in the front and then mullet city. And again, so we're clear, I've seen a lot of cool mullets, especially these days lately, actually. Mullets are kind of getting hot again, which is interesting, but great. And I'll tell you, I've seen some that I'm really enjoying. Like, they're like, so wrong, they're right kind of thing, right? And this is one of those things where I always believe in cutting with intention, all right? If you want to cut a mullet, cut a mullet. Don't cut a mullet by accident. You dig where I'm coming from? Cool. Awesome. There. Forward diagonal again. Now watch. All the way. See how I'm pushing it? All the way. All the way. Making sure that I'm in that initial position where my initial section was. So that I make sure that and this unfortunately is easier for me to see if the length is dropped out because I don't have to do a peekaboo around the front, right? But in this moment, there we go. I know I'm on point. I know I have not driven to Mullet City, and then I can continue on with my journey. Okay? There. And last one for the section. There, making sure, boom. Head is still down, and I think you all can see how important that becomes. Oh, wide teeth, too much hair, not working, right? Boom. Don't force something, change something. You dig? That's something in hair cutting and life, actually, right? Don't go up against a brick wall. Change what needs to happen, and sometimes it can just be switching the teeth of your comb. Look at all that movement. All right? Not a hole in sight. I've removed a ton of density. I've created something that's going to support the top, right? All right, now what's the top looking like? Fantastic. I'm going to cut from here. Here.
Are we dancing?
Here. Yes, yes.
Put the music on.
You know what I'm saying? Uh-huh. Yes. All right, fantastic. All right, so, okay. I tilt the head up. Right now I'm upright because now I'm going to be dealing with the interior, okay? So the very first thing whenever we do any kind of disconnection, invisible or visible, make sure you section out the stuff that you just cut, or else clearly or not so clearly, you are going to make everything not disconnected because the stuff that you just cut is going to fall into what you're about to cut. So issue number one, get that out of the way so that you ensure that everything that you're doing is going to be isolated, okay? There. So that's what this looks like, Una. Yeah? All of it. Front, back, all of it. All right? Bring it all to the back and make sure it's there. All right? Now, I'll let the center bit go first, okay? I will resection. I will do it in the salon. Anybody who has worked with me knows it. I want clarity. It takes me less time to re-clip something than it takes for me to fix something. Everybody dig where I'm coming from? Fantastic. All right, now, here we are. I have this section right on top. Now I'll get myself right in the center. Let's see. What do you think, Una? A lot of layers, little layers.
Let's go for it.
Okay, I'm with you. Go big or go home.
Yeah.
If not now, when? You know what I'm saying? There we go.
Why change your style now?
True. There. There. Something crept out, can't have it, right? Got to bring that back in, right? So that I make sure everything is on point. Now, okay, let's see. Now, if I took a center section, that's how short my layers are. Now, I know everything that I cut right now needs to be longer than that, okay? Or else I'll have a step, and then I'll be able to see it, and guess what? The invisible disconnection will become visible, and it actually ain't gonna look so great, okay? So I have to make sure that the back of this is longer than this. This can be left longer or shorter depending on what you want. And this, in fact, is part of a bonus lesson. Remember how I shared with you in the beginning of this? Oh, you're the person who has 5 hairs of head on their head and they still want layers? Fantastic. Check this. Remember my sectioning? Remember the section I just let down and see these 2 on the top? Okay, now here, check this out. If it was that person, what I would do is I would, on the underneath, create the bluntest, strongest line I possibly could, but I wouldn't layer it. That creates this. Now I'm talking about angling of my layers so that I can give somebody with no hair this many layers if I want to. I just need to make sure I'm in a concave angle so that it falls soft over what was underneath it. So again, in the interest of sharing with you many techniques on one haircut, that's the way that you can utilize this to give that person who wants layers but always never can have them because their hair is too fine. This is the way to do it. Isolate the underneath, create the strongest one length you possibly can, and then layer everything on top of it. Just make sure that you're cutting at concave angles for a soft fall over what's underneath. Pro tip, all right? Now, layers. All right, Una, let's do it. See how I'll angle my finger a little bit like this? I give a little angle, right? Double check my craftsmanship, always. The initial section, I always want to make sure I double check that. This is the guide to the whole rest of the entire situation. If this isn't perfect, nothing after it is going to be. I really encourage everyone out there watching this video, make sure that you double check that initial section so that you have the freedom to move forward without being so paranoid about what it is you're doing or not doing. That first section is right, so will the rest. All right? Now, what I'm going to do in this instance to honor this triangular flow, I'm going to over-direct everything to that initial section in the back as well. Okay? So that now we have some weight swinging over here, covering where we get less real estate and giving that kind of a shattered movement. Now, also worth noting, I could square this, meaning over-directing everything to the previous. It's fine. The underneath weight will help give the strength to the front. That needs to happen. This center can be total, or the interior can totally be doing something different. How do I want it to flow? Maybe I'll even cut the front round and bring it back like this so that you have this shape going this way from the underneath. So you have the triangular pushing weight on the underneath, providing a strong perimeter. And then I can have the interior flowing back round off the face. Something to think about, all right? In this instance, though, this is what I'm going to be doing here. Remember, when you know your shapes, you can understand how to move hair, all right? And when you understand how to move hair, that's how you'll be able to serve your client the best. Because if they want it to flow in a certain way, you can cut it in the way that it wants to happen. In this instance, I'm wanting to strengthen the whole front, okay? Awesome. Now, next section, forward diagonal, right? But as a triangle, I want to make sure that I'm over-directing it to the initial, right? So I have a forward diagonal section, over section number 2, over-directed to section number 1. Can you see how much layering I can give someone without, I mean, watch. You're just going to see. And I have so much freedom to go for it, right? Because it's in these different sections. Now, also worth noting, always remember the angle I'm got my fingers. If I have my fingers like this, it is going to fall like a brick under what's beneath it. Do not do this technique using your angles like this. Always make sure you're using concave angles so that the back is over-directed, because as it falls nice and soft under what's underneath it. All right? Now, there we go. Third section, over-directed to the initial. Get that first section back again. That's done. Now I do a diagonal forward on the right side of the head. Now remember, always be conscious that you're pushing it away far enough. Use your mirror. Your mirror will show you if you're in the center of the back of the head or if you're a little bit to you. All right? Remember, you want to push it far enough away. All right? Double check in your mirror. You'll get used to it, and this will be it'll be something you'll do unconsciously. You won't have to focus so much once you've trained yourself to do it. Yeah? Awesome. So all section 2, over-directed to section 1. And this is very much going to show you all the extremes that you could take this to without any point cutting. And I share that because if you can do it this extremely, think about if you had less layers. Think about if I just wanted a little bit of layering. What if I was taking my layers like up here someplace? It's a lot less layering, and it would still fall so seamlessly over what's underneath it. As you will see, that is going to be my big reveal. I'll tell you that right now, yeah? Awesome, okay? There. Now, to move to the front. I'm gonna look like Clip Man in a minute. Look, there's a clip everywhere. Right, great.
You got
all right.
your tools.
Yes, like a superintendent. Okay, and I'm not mad at superintendents. Please, they save our apartment. You know what I mean? Okay, so now I'll from here take a forward diagonal, and now I'm gonna show you a little bit of a pivot for a triangular shape. All right. I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to only connect very through the top, but I'm going to disconnect as I go to the bottom of my section. All right, so the bottoms will be longer, but it'll connect through the top. It'll make more sense when I do it. So this is my first section right here. That's my cutting section. Now I take a little cross section of the back. That'll be my guide section, all right, my guide to length. Now, okay, Una, this is the bit you're gonna have to maybe back up for, because people cats ain't gonna be able to see the full pivot. You know what I'm saying? All right, here, boom, up like this. Now remember, I'm over here, I'm over here. I got my forward diagonal section. Now watch this. Look at my left hand.
What?
You're so
Sorry.
ridiculous. All right, there you go. All right. Now that'll have it swing forward a lot more dramatically. Now watch. Una, come here. See how this is my guide? Can they see it, Una?
Yes.
See that? So now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to cut on my guide. I'm going to disconnect and I'm going to cut something like this so that I have a lot more on the bottom because remember, I wanted to create more strength through the front. Okay? So as long as it's connected through the top, it will appear totally connected. And this is what an invisible disconnection is all about. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Uh-huh. Okay. Remember, I didn't slide it. Real slow. So I'm creating a one length, really. It's strong, you know, but I just got to small. Move quick with the closing of the scissors and not big chunks. Although, in the interest of multiple techniques, if you wanted more texture, you could go like this. Right? Because it'll open, close, different varies of length. If I wanted something a little bit more razor, I could lock and slide cut. All right? So there's a lot of different ways that I could operate this to get more texture or what have you. But I want to do this so that you all see all of these disconnections come with totally blunt lines, and all of it is going to blend absolutely seamlessly. Okay? Awesome. Drop it. Forward diagonal again. Bring back my section, right? And everything, again, is going to be over-directed to that initial section that I just cut, all right? Now, again, Una, back it up so they can see the pivot. This is one of the trickier things because you're maneuvering. Now, look, in fact, back it up so you can see my footwork, too. Remember, hands control technique, feet control shape. So that we're fully understanding this is the way I need to move. Watch. Patience, my friends. When you do it nice and slowly, you can create a very blunt line. See? All right? There we go. Next section, forward diagonal. I'm gonna micromanage it because that's kind of, I can be like that, but I want every opportunity for you to see this pivot that I do. All right? And you could kind of get into it. See, there you go, right? Okay. Now, last little bit. Again, this last bit, I'm gonna bring in the Y teeth, right? Because a lot of hair to control, and I don't want to struggle and create too much tension with the finer teeth. Yeah. And something really mind-blowing, actually, in all of that, look, I still have my front length. What? You see what I'm saying? So never forget that little pivot, and it makes all the difference in the world, and you still have, look at all of this layering. All right? Now, let's hit this side, all right? And let's bring this sucker home. All right, now, again, come a little bit closer, Una. Let the cat see it, right? Boom. Little forward diagonal right here. Boom, like that. Okay. There. right? That's my cutting section. Now remember, I take a little cross section of the back. That's my guide section, right? Then, and I'll pivot like this. Right? Now check this out, because remember, I always want to cut from short to long, so this side, in the salon, I'm in front of the client at this point. Okay, so I'm in front of the chair, so that I'm able to do my little pivot dance. Right, here, 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 watch. Now, Una, look. See how I have my guide under here? I'll connect to that, that's the shortest layer, then I'm going to disconnect after it. That's what an invisible disconnection is. So that way, it'll look connected, but it will not be, okay? I can almost hear something I'm recording this, and yet I'm hearing something from the future, which is somebody watching it and saying, how do you create balance? So first of all, just so we're clear, look, balanced. Like, that's as balanced as the scales of justice, all right? And it's worth noting, and this is something that I tell many people as they're learning new techniques and as they're learning hair cutting, okay? This isn't because I'm such a genius, okay? Much as I would like to claim that, right? What it is once you get used to the techniques, and once you move through something quick enough, your hands, your muscles remember what you did. Your muscles remember the length of the other side. What becomes difficult in creating balance from that perspective is when you're still learning a technique, how long it takes someone to cut the one side. By the time they get to the other side, this has been so long ago, you've actually forgotten what you've done over here. Right? So always remember that. The more familiar you become with the technique, the more comfortable you become with the technique, the more you execute the technique, and the more efficiently that you can execute that technique will be easier for you to create balance from side to side, because your hands will remember what you did on the other side, and they'll immediately go to mimic it on this side. Okay? Okay. Next forward diagonal. Boom. Where's that initial section, y'all? All right, boom. There we go. There we go. There. In front. Right? Back to the discipline. Back to the discipline. There. Over directed to the initial. Pivot, 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 pivot. And there we go. All right. Next section, forward diagonal. Grab up my guides. Pivot, 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 pivot. Last section. Wide teeth of the combs so that I'm not using too much tension. Lost none of the front. Peep this. First of all, Clip Man has emerged, right? Secondly, Okay, Una, for those that don't believe, go all around it. Not a point cut, nothing. Not a weight line, not a hole, not a chunky bit, nothing. Now look at this. Are you serious? Do you see how much life that has now? And that's what's really happening. All right? And now remember something that's really, really important is this all happens because of these type of concave angles. Whenever you're doing any type of disconnection, you always want to be working in concave angles so that the shortest part is near the head and the longest part moves away from it so that it falls soft over what's underneath it. Okay? Here, check this out. Let's bring this haircut home. All right? And I will just to complete the Clip Man outfit. Fantastic. Okay. Okay. Now to actually bring this home, I'm gonna create a little face framing. And that I'm going to do a little bit looser, okay? I'll do a little slide cutting just to show you so that we have a finished look. Then I kept it going the whole time. I brought it down, I released, you saw that there was no camera trickery. It didn't go off and all of a sudden just blended. It's like, it's legit. But what I am going to do is I'm going to turn this off as soon as I'm done doing this forward graduation in the face frame. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to put a little bit of dry texturizing spray, something make this sucker pop. And then I'm going to turn it back on and close out correctly, all right? Cool. Keep rolling, Una, so that we can still do this face frame. And I think I am going to shoot for lips. Yeah, right? What you think, Una? Lips? Okay, cool. Right, now again, in the spirit of all of this, I'm going to make sure that I'm really doing a lot of over direction here, okay? So that the front is soft as well, right? So I take it down a little bit. Where are my lips, right? Boom, like that. See? Choppier, chunkier. See how I'm really chopping at it a lot more? See that? And then you get a different type of texture, you dig? All right? Now the other way. Take a little bit of the side I just cut. Let's not add this. In this moment, I'm not going to be like, ooh, muscle memory. Not around the face. I want that needs to be like, let me peep it. You know what I'm saying? So when it's around the face, I'm like, why don't I take a tease from the other side? Assuming it's a center part, all right? Cool, right? There we go. There we go. Right, look, same elevation, same over direction. There we go. Right now, see, open, close, little chunkier, little chunkier, little chunkier. You notice that? Nothing, very little in technique I will ever consider right or wrong. I will always consider working or not working, okay? The only time I ever bust anybody's chops on right and wrong is body mechanics. Either you're operating your body in a way that is going to give you carpal tunnel syndrome in 10 years, or rotator cuff surgery in 10 years, or you are not. All of the techniques, there's a time and a place for almost all of them, to be honest with you, if that's what your client wants, yeah? That's what we do, right? So always be aware of that, all right? Never a judgment on that. I will judge and correct body positioning, and that's only for the longevity of career. You know, so that we could keep earning, keep creating, and keep serving our clients the way we love to do it, yeah? Cool, all right? Now, next section. I'm sorry, Una, I don't want you to turn off the camera yet, because I want to do this from beginning to end, and then show it off seamlessly, because I want everyone to see what can happen with the right over direction and the right elevation, if they're conscious of it, yeah? And then those, well, let me honor it. I always say it. I don't take for granted. Let me make sure that I'm out of hair. And I am indeed out of hair. Just a little bit right here. Let me make sure. Let Clipman make sure. Okay, great. All right, there. Now, one thing that I will share with you is, there you go, yeah. Now, check this out. And I'm even going to stick with it. Oh, look at, I think this looks really great. And it's a mannequin, so that's really particularly good news, actually. So one thing that'll happen here, and I will position myself here, is through this middle. And actually, come here, Una. So I'll take a triangular section, point at the back, a little wider in the front, yeah? But not, definitely a small section. Nothing involving recessions or anything like that, okay? Here. And now I want to show you something. And this can make all the difference in the world. And in the interest of all this, I'm really going to keep this whole thing blunt, just so you all can see what you could do. You don't need to texturize anything. You just need to be mindful about your over direction and your elevation, okay? So here, check this out. Because I layered the back and then I did forward graduation to the front, I will have a corner here, okay? And this corner can give weight around the face, see? Right? So what I will do, and again, not chipping into it, but showing you what strong technique can do. This is around the face. This is the interior. Then, Una, come here, come closer, just so they can see. I will take a pivoting section, see how that's the point? And I will make it go wider through here. This will incorporate some of the recession area. Let me see if this will work, and it will. Watch. I will do the same thing on the other side. And I do it only in these sections, because anything below it isn't on the face. The one thing I really never like personally, but this is personal preference, is heaviness around the face, especially around the eyes. Okay? And then see how that lightens it all up? Okay? All right, and again, Una, I'm just one more time, just to bear witness, okay? I mean, this is flat iron. If you were gonna see a hole, ladies and gentlemen, trust me, you'd be seeing it, all right? Okay? All right, everybody. Una, now that you've all seen that, I'm gonna bring this to life. Put a little dry texturizing spray in it, put some texture in it, whip it around a little bit, and I'll be right back to close this properly, yeah? Awesome. See you in a bit. Later. And we're back! And there you go. This is what a little dry texturizing spray does. And literally that's all I did. I didn't do any additional styling. I just put in some dry texturizing spray, mushed it around a little bit, pieced it out with my fingers, and here you have it. And again, just so you can see the full, see? A lot of movement, no holes, no shelves, and I promise you, and you all bore witness because you saw it when it was sleek and smooth, so you know I didn't need to start chopping into it to get this. All right? This is all no texturizing, no point cutting, no blending shears, no notching shears, no nothing. All cut, blunt lines, using the correct elevation and the correct over direction. All right? So, listen, again, and I want to be super clear. I styled this out like it's pretty rocking. Like, I really want to cut this on somebody. Like,
Me.
look, I got you, Una, you're next. All right? But I will say that, again, think about the layers being a little bit longer. Think about the underneath layers being a little bit longer. Think about less extreme. Think about more extreme. However you want to work it, play with it, okay? And have fun with it. And remember that when you're trying to create something modern or more avant-garde or creative looking, you're always going to have bigger distances between short and longs, okay? Anytime you have these distances that are wider between what is a short length and what is a long length, it will look more avant-garde, more modern, more creative, what have you, all right? When you decrease that distance, it becomes more salon suitable, commercial, however you want to utilize it. Okay? And depending on the situation, depending on your design aesthetic, and depending on what your client wants to see, just modify it to the way they want it and to the artistry that you want to create. I hope that within this video, I not only showed you how to do this haircut, but I showed you how to do many haircuts. Because the one thing I never want to do is paint you into a box by just teaching any of you one haircut. I want to use the haircut to teach technique. Because the one thing nobody needs, we don't need hundreds or however many people cutting hair exactly like Yurish all over the place. What we need is we need your brilliance, we need your artistry, and we need your creativity. And I hope that the techniques that I shared with you within this haircut will provide you just that. Can't wait to see what you all create. I hope you felt that this was useful. Have a great rest of your day. Later.